Hello everyone. In this session, I would like to discuss about the polyfill of bind method. That means polyfill of bind method is nothing but how my JavaScript bind method is going to work. Same like that, I want to write my own bind method. That's it. For this, okay, just be patient. It may take like 10 minutes. Okay. For this, you should have an idea on how my call, apply, bind methods are going to work exactly. You should have minimum idea. If you don't know, just watch my JavaScript video. You can get some more idea. So I will tell how it is going to work within 2 seconds. Just this is my function, a function f1. In this function, it's take like two arguments, for example. It's take like two arguments. Here, one console message is there, console.log of this dot I plus x plus y, x plus y. Now, if I call my f1 general, if I call my f1, okay, it's take like two arguments. If you pass like this, what's my answer? You know, my answer is like not a number, n-a-n. Why? Because my console.log here the message, the statement, if you observe, x value is like 10, my y value is like 20. Here, default, my JavaScript context is like nothing but this, okay, pointing to my window object by default. So inside my window object, my I is there or not there means I is not there. Okay, so that inside an object one property is not there, it's like undefined. Undefined plus 10 plus 20. It's like a not a number. So if you want to execute these statements, just you can execute it. Say this. If you come here, go to my developer console window, go to my console. Yes, it's a not a number, not a number. Now do slight change in my requirement. Okay, they said like yes, my this is pointing to window by default. It's okay, great. Now I'm giving you one object where obj equals to, I'm giving you one object is like 10. Can you make this object is available like a current object? This that means instead of this pointing to window, my this should pointing to my own object like this. He asked. Yes, can we do it? Means yes, we can do it, but direct call it's not possible. We can do by using call, apply, and bind methods. Call, apply, bind methods. By using call, apply, bind, we can make one object is available like a current object. We can make one object, your own object is available like a current object. By using call, apply, bind, we can do it. Okay, if you want, I can show that one also. I can show that one also. Now see this. Now f1 dot call, it's take my first argument is like which object you want me to make it available like a current object, obj. After that, my f1 take how many arguments? See the rest operator. It's take like two arguments. Just see my call method is going to call this f1 function and gives me the result is like what, 40 or not. If you want to get some more idea, just go through my video. The next one is like f1 dot apply also there. Apply. The difference is here, it's take my second argument is like an array. That's it. That array contains my f1 take how many arguments? Original f1 take how many arguments? Two arguments. So that you can pass those two arguments. Yes, it's going to execute. Now my f1 dot bind, our actual discussion is about bind method. So that my f1 dot bind is take my first argument is always like which object you want me to make it like a current object, which object you want me to make it available like a current object. The second argument onwards, my f1 take how many arguments? Two, right? Okay, that two arguments you can pass it. But my bind not like a call and apply. My call and apply directly call my f1 function or not. But my bind method returns me one more function, so that you should have to call that function. This is the way you have to call it. Now say this. If you not this, if you not write this one, my bind method returns me one more function. Say yes. Okay, it's which function? Same function only binding with current object. So if you want to call that return function, you can call like this. You can call like this. Yes. Finally, if you call like this, my output is like 40 or not. Why? Because my I value is like 10, 10 plus 10 plus 20, 40. This is one syntax, another syntax, multiple ways are there. Now see, this is the one. It's take how many arguments? Three arguments. My first argument is like object only. There is no change. Which object you want me to make it available like a current object? My second argument onwards. Okay, here you can pass total F1 arguments. That is one way. Otherwise, you can pass some of the arguments in my bind method, some of the arguments in my bind return method. Like this also we can pass it. It is also valid. It also gives me the output, proper output. The next one, here I'm going to pass only my current object. Okay, which object you want me to make it available like a current object? My second return function is there, right? There I am going to pass all. Okay, yes, this is also valid. This is also valid. Now say this. Yes, this is also valid or not. That means my bind you can use like this or this or this. Now come to our actual discussion. Okay, so far just I discussed about call, apply, bind, how my bind method, predefined bind method, JavaScript bind method is looks like, and how we can invoke it. Now my requirement is exactly, okay, exactly same bind method I want to create my own bind method. Okay, my bind method name is what, my bind. This is my name. If I call with my bind, then that time also I should have to get the same output. I want to create my own bind method. My own bind method. Whenever you execute these statements, how you get that output like a 40. Whenever I execute these statements, then also I should have to get that output is like a 40. Like that, I want to create my own bind method. Okay, so that this is our actual requirement. Shall we start? Okay, let's start. Now see this. Now refresh my page. Whatever the things I executed, just I refreshed. Now, first of all, I want to talk about this bind method. See this. One method you are calling with one function. You are calling with one function. When you can call with my function reference, either it's a variable or whatever it is, with the function reference. If you want to call something, if you want to call either variable or a method, that particular method or a variable should be the member of your function class, JavaScript function class. Then only we can call it. This bind is the member of my function class. Which function class? In JavaScript, function itself a class. Capital F, function itself a class. If any variable or a method call with a function reference, see my F1 is like a function reference. If you want to call with a function reference, that variable or a method should be the member of my function. Then only should be the member of my function class. Then only we can call it. Otherwise we can't. So that see this. This is my function F1, right? Yeah, you already created. This is my function F1. Yes, this is only requirement, right? Yes. Now, if I call my bind, yes, bind is there. See this, my bind is there. But if I call my bind is there, my bind is not there. Okay, if my bind should work like bind is nothing but my bind also should call with my should invoke with my F1 or not. I want to make like this. When we can invoke with function reference means that particular function should be the member of my function class. How we can make it like a member? Through inheritance. So inheritance prototype dot my bind. It's like what? A function or not? Yes, done. Now see this. Can we invoke my bind now with my F1 reference? If you want to say, yeah, say this. My bind is there. My bind is there. How my bind is there? Same like this. My bind also there. Yeah, first part completed or not? Perfect. Okay, so I can access my bind also with my F1. That means yes, up to here done. F1 dot bind, how you access? You are accessing F1 dot my bind also. Perfect. Which take how many arguments? Bind take how many arguments? Exactly tell me. Object 3 arguments here. Here 2 arguments. Here 1 argument. I don't know exactly. But the first argument is common, right? So that my first argument is like which object you want me to make it available. That is my first object. Second argument onwards, I don't know. Okay, number of arguments count, I don't know exactly. Then the time if you don't know number of arguments count, can we handle it by using rest operator? Yes, we can do it. This is like an outer function. Okay, just any name you can give it. It's not a matter for me. Okay, like this. First one object, any numbers you can pass it. After object, any number you can pass it. 2 you can pass it, 1 you can pass it. If you don't know pass also not a problem for me. Yes, done. Now tell me up to here done now. Up to here done. Functionality wise not syntactically. Okay, this bind method your calling here is nothing but what? This bind method returns me one more function so that I can call it or not. So can we return one more function here? Can we return one more function here? Perfect. Yes. That return function, what? This is the one, this is the one, this one. Okay, this one, this one, this one. Now talk about the return function. Which take how many arguments exactly? Tell me. 0, 1, 2. I don't know exactly how many arguments. If you don't know, can we handle by using rest operator again? Okay, now you understood why I put like naming convention like outer and inner. Yes, perfect. Now, finally, if you execute this one, which method is going to execute? Which method is going to execute? Finally, if you execute this statement, my F1 method only, right, is going to execute. My F1 method only going to execute. And this object is like acting like a current object. And these arguments are going past like what? First argument, second argument, like that or not. Finally, you should have to call my F1 only by passing these arguments or not. Perfect. Now, here I need my F1. So how we can get my F1, if you call any function with my function reference in that function, okay, that means here you are calling my bind method with my F1, right? So that inside bind method, you can get this F1 like a current object, this. So that can we get that this here? Okay, right? Where my function is like this or not? Which function that is? You are calling my bind on which function? Okay, you are calling my bind on which function? F1 function. That F1 function you can get it in my bind class, bind function like this. By using this we can handle it. Okay, that means simple. See, you are calling my F1, you are calling F1 dot bind, you are calling bind with my F1. So this F1, how is available inside bind? By using current object this. Okay, here also you are calling my bind with F1. Inside my bind, how we can get this F1, by using this current object. Okay, so that finally come here, my this is pointing to your F1 or not. So what we have to do at the time of calling this particular inner function is nothing but this one. If you call this one, my original F1 has to execute by making this object is available like a current object, and these two are like what? Your arguments or not. Like that you have to call it. If you want to call at the time of calling this particular return function, can we call my F1? Can we call my F1 with the apply? My apply method used for what? Make your object is available like a current object. Okay, at the same time, it's take like one array as a second argument. Here can we merge your outer properties and my inner properties like this? Now see this, my apply method call one method. Apply method is for what? Call your method by making one object is available like a current object and pass these arguments to my original function or not. Okay, how many outer is there? Outer is nothing but this one. How many you passed to the outer, and inner how many passed? Both all are merged and passed to my apply method second argument or not. That's it. Now see this, finally, if anybody call my bind and then call the return function of my bind, okay, my return function of my bind, what he is going to do? He is going to call my F1. He is going to call my Fn. Fn is nothing but F1 in this case. By making this object is available like a current object and pass these arguments, pass these values as an argument to my F1 or not. Done. Perfect. My bind is ready. Now can we execute this one? Is it really work or not? Yeah, say this. Hey, 40. Say this. Yes, 40. See this. Yes, 40. Working, right? How my JavaScript bind method is going to work? The same like this, my bind also working. Now I want to debug and I want to show you. I don't want to leave like this. I want to debug. Okay, perfect. Here I want to put the debugger. Okay, done. The next one. This is my bind, right? Here I want to put the debugger. Here I want to put the debugger. In the inner also I want to put the debugger. Inner also I want to put the debugger. Now execute the statement and you can get some more idea. Yes. Okay. Can we use this one? See, some more few of the elements, few of the arguments in my bind method. My bind method and few are in return. So click on enter. Yes. Say this. Okay. Now see this. This is my object. I can object my outer. How many you passed? Only one, right? If you come here for the outer, you passed only one. Yes, perfect. You are calling my bind on F1, right? So that this F1 is available like a current object. Is it really? See this, my this is pointing to what? F1 only or not? Perfect. And then you called what? After that, you called what? Your return function with one argument. Yes, it go to my return function with one argument. Perfect. Now see, this is my object, this is my outer one 10, and this is my inner one. See this here, I merged both outer and inner. Both are like what? Outer is like 10 and inner is like 20. Now come here, see this F1 is nothing but what? F1. You are calling F1 by using apply method. Make this object is available like a current object by passing these arguments like a okay by passing these elements like arguments to my f1 or not. Now see internally line number 6 is nothing but he is calling fn is nothing but f1, so that it calls my f1. Yes, perfect. Now see my x value is like 10, my y value is like 20, and my this is pointing to my own object or not. Done. Now see my output. Yes, 40 or not. This is the way I can create my own my bind method or not. It's exactly working like my JavaScript bind method or not. Thanks guys. Thanks for watching.